Right then, let's get going. Schematics. $30K. Actually, let's get another one first. Hey, morning. We are going to, I've only got, what time are we on? 7. I've only got about an hour and a half. We are going to fix this customer's GBA. It's come back for a volume wheel issue, but at the same time, oh, thanks for the super chat. We are going to, well, I'm going to show you how the volume system works on a Game Boy Advanced and do something that nobody's yet done, because it's one of those things that I stopped working on GBAs quite a while ago for mods. The scene's just too toxic to really focus on. But one thing I never got round to finishing was making a kind of drop-in volume wheel, because the ones on the GBA are, again, similar to the PC Engine GT. They're a specific layout and they don't exist now. There's not the exact same kind of resistor wheel for the GBA. So the closest people get is to buy these off AliExpress, just these, you know, off-the-shelf B, say 10.3s, which is a 10K volume wheel, same physical size and dimensions, but completely wrong spec. So I'm going to show you how to, and we're going to figure out at the same time, so I did this years ago and never bothered releasing a product. I'm going to show you how to adapt a off-the-shelf AliExpress volume wheel, which is brand new, so you haven't got the dirt issues and the volume issues, which is probably what's causing this issue, and adapt it on this Game Boy, basically. And then if we get time, I've got also a PS1 here that wants an X station and maxing out, basically. We've got tons of Prestiges in, like absolutely tons, so I'm going to have to drop off stream in a few hours and just focus and smash through loads all day, and then I might come on later in the afternoon to show you where I've got up to. But basically, this is what we're going to do. So let's focus on first the customer. So they've said order number. We forgot to put the easy flash in, so we've got to include one of them. But the main issue is the sound's cutting off while lowering the volume. I've spoken on Discord, and it sounds like, because at first I thought, oh yeah, it's basically pure silence, which is part of the clean amp mod I make. It cuts the volume out completely when you turn the volume wheel down. I was the first person to do this, and now, again, as per usual in most of the modding scene, most other mods have kind of copied this. But what it does is, when you turn the volume wheel down so far, to prevent any kind of noise, if you just want pure silence, hence the name, you turn the volume wheel down, it completely cuts the sound off. Now, on this, from looking at it on Discord, it's definitely cutting off too soon. Guten Morgen, welcome in. Working on a GBA that's also got the clean juice. Oops, also got the clean juice. Probably needs charging, or it could just need reseating. So let's give this a go. Yeah, just a flat Game Boy. I'm hoping it isn't just a flat battery what's caused it for the customer. So yeah, when you turn the volume down, if you turn it fully up and I turn it off, this is max volume with an amp, so you'll get a bit of hum. So you can't hear it yet, but you will in a second. So hear that slight hum. And I'll move it away from there because it's about to blast. But basically it's very quiet. But if you are in, you know, complete silence, say at night, and you want to play and you want to completely cut off the sound, when you turn the clean amp down, see how it's completely cut off. So now, nothing, absolutely nothing. So there's no noise at all. That's called pure silence. It's a mod that I've done. But if you listen to the minimum volume, which is there, and look how much I've got to turn that volume wheel still, it's got like half of the so turning up, turning up, turning up, turning. It's nearly full volume that it's cutting out on. So something's not right there. I suspect either the volume wheel or something wrong with the GBA. But either way, while we're doing this, we'll swap out the volume wheel for a brand new one, which I don't know where I've placed. I've got plenty of them though. But we'll replace it with a brand new volume wheel. And because this isn't going to be the right spec, we're going to figure out how to basically replace it and update the Game Boy so the spec is right. And I'll explain how this circuit works. This is kind of what I'll be doing if you subscribe to YouTube or Twitch. These are the kind of videos I'd typically be doing on the live only streams, like the sub only streams. It's kind of showing you how things work as opposed to just repairing them. But for now, you guys will get to see it as well. So let's ignore the charge, and first we'll take a normal working GBA, like at least it works to the point where I need it to, and this is the volume wheel. This hasn't got a clean amp on, so there's no mods on it, this is stock. And this is the wheel that is likely the problem. And if we take a look at this wheel, I think I've explained it a few times, but basically there is, I get some paper to draw. And what's inside this wheel, I think I should do a photo, I'll snap one open so you can see, but before we open it, normally 5-pin have 2 wiper blades, but this is, in fact this might even have 2 wiper blades and we don't need them both. But the Game Boy one only uses 3 pins, so it only uses the middle and the 2 outers, so let's draw it as a 3-pin, and this is like the wheel. So there's the outer plastic, and all that happens is, this comes in here, and then there's this black carbon that goes all the way around that's resistive. And by the time it gets to the end, this resistance adds up to say 30k on the GBA. And then the middle arm is attached to the centre point of this wheel with a little wiper blade. So this comes down out of this pin. But then there's a little wiper blade here that can spin. So when you spin this wheel, and you're physically spinning the wheel left and right, you see that metal arm there coming out? That's this arm. And basically what it does is it's going over this contact like that. And as you move the wheel around, the signal has then got a path to come in here, through here, and short circuit to here, back to the circuit. So at this point, say, at, I don't know, whatever that is, 1, 2, 3, about a quarter of a way, just over a quarter of a way around, you'd have a quarter of 30k. So let's just say, for instance, you got, I don't know, 10k there or 8k. You'd probably get about 8k there. So you'd have 8k as you're turning, and then if you keep turning the wheel and it goes over to here, then you'd probably get about 20k. And that's how the potentiometer works. So if you measure over the outer 2 pins, it'll be 30k and static. But if you measure over the middle 2 pins from either side, you'll get a varying resistance based on when you're turning the wheel. The problem we have is the GBA is 30k, and we know that because if we pull up the schematic of the GBA, and here's the schematic, you can see here, this is the volume wheel, VR. You see it says 30k, and it's got pin 1, 2 and 3. So this is the issue we have, because all new potentiometers like this one, if we get the new one and measure, you'll see these are 10k. FFX too, oh that's a bummer. So if we get yeah, it literally is a potentiometer. So a volume wheel or a pot or a dial, as we called in most factories, the same thing. They're just a potentiometer. The normal little dials that you turn for potentiometers are all the same basically. They might work slightly different, but ultimately the whole point is a variable resistance. What was I going to show you now? Oh yeah, so this wheel, this brand new wheel, say, that's the ones that are in the market, if we measure over the outer 2 pins, you'll see here we should have 10k, we've got 9.5, but if we turn the wheel, which you can't really see me doing, but you can trust I'm not lying to you, so here's the wheel. If I turn the wheel, you'll notice the resistance doesn't change, because the outer one, obviously, is the outer one. If we go to the middle one, and I don't think this is set up the same way, but we'll find out, you've got basically, there we go, you've got from the outer to the middle, 15 ohms, and as we turn it, it's going to 10k. So if I turn it slowly, counterclockwise, you can see that resistance slowly drops, and this is what's controlling. Ultimately, it forms a voltage divider, so you'll put 5 volts in, say, and the output will go from 5 volts to 0 volts and everything in between. And that's how the GBA circuit works in this instance. So what it's doing is injecting VCC, which will be battery voltage, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head whether it's regulated, but we could check. But voltage comes in, it's through a 470 ohm resistor first, then through the potentiometer, and then the bottom also has a 4.7k. So it's a bit more than just this being the voltage divider, because it doesn't want to dead short the battery. So it limits the current with these 2 resistors and forms a specific voltage that goes into the volt pin. So now basically, if you turn this up and down, the volt pin on the GBA, so the amp on here, this is the amp that we're looking at that it's going into. So pin 9 of this amp is the one that controls how loud it's going to output to the speakers. So if you go down pin 9, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this pin here, you can see goes to C39, the cap. If we go to the schematic, you can see C59 rather, not 39, is the cap it's attached to, so we know we're on the right track. This is the cap. So basically this pin here goes off to the center point, so pin 2 of here. So this trace will go all the way around, come to here and connect here. And this should see a varying voltage. So let's just see that in action and see what a normal working console does. And then we'll adapt this to modify this circuit so we can use a 10k resistor instead of the 30k, because you can't get 30k's on the market basically. So this is what we're trying to do. We are trying to adapt an off-the-shelf wheel, so you can buy a brand new wheel, because these are so common. You can see in the headphone port it's got liquid damage. This is just one of ours, it's not our customers. And that's likely made this, or in most instances water gets in through the headphone port or moisture and makes this less resistive. So basically it's just makes the volume do what the customers is doing at the minute, which is cut off at a random position basically. PC Engine GT, not yet. I've got tons of Prestiges we've got to smash through today. It's all been cleaned up though, so this has had the good old dishwasher. So it's now super clean. This is the level of clean you'll get from putting it in a dishwasher. Like absolutely flawless. You won't find any marks of anything on there. Both sides. So this has still got the clean power on obviously. We've got the connectors on, but what I do have is one of my other PC Engine GTs, which is basically going to get destroyed by me now and using it to fix the customers. So I'm going to swap the game slot in this with the 2 ribbons and a connector onto my board and make sure that works. Then we can use the game slot in here to check if that's what's wrong with the customers. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to swap the customer's main ICs onto mine. We'll basically diagnose that way. So I'll get back onto that probably tomorrow. So volume wheel, we're going to power this thing up now by bench. So I'm just going to inject 3 volts and we will turn on and measure a working wheel. Now you can bear in mind this wheel might well also not be fully functional. It might be dirty. This isn't exactly a pristine console. So let's turn this on. And you can hear just about. We've got audio. So what we want to do now. Good morning TikTokers. I didn't notice your chat wasn't coming through the other side. Oh yeah, Rusty's been up. He's been out with me this morning at like 6 o'clock, trying to go for a wee. And now I think he's sulking in the other room as usual. Let's have a look. Oh, he's in his bed. Settled in for once. I've filled him up full of food this morning, so he's sleepy. Installed the clean amp in my GBC, really impressed with it, nice. yeah, I'm going to be doing some new clean amps as well. I made these like 6 years ago, and it's well overdue being upgraded and doing like a headphone amp and more features. But yeah, they used to be our biggest selling product of all time, the GBA clean amp. When we did like a little report years ago, I never realised how many we were selling. Like back in, I don't know, I think 6 years ago was the peak, maybe 5. And I think I did a report and I was like, Jesus, we sold like 5,000 clean amps for GBA alone in like, I think it was 7 weeks. Now we don't sell that in like 6 months to 12 months. It's like a lot slower now, but when I first come out with it, it was obviously the loudest and cleanest amp going, and then now there's just, the market's flooded with, obviously, competition and clones, basically. That's the sad thing about it in one way, but we were there for the boom, and it was good times then. So now, let's look at, I want to show you the, zoom out a bit on this one, we need some good visual, so you can see that now. We're mainly interested in this, so I'll turn it to voltage. What I'm going to do is probe, say, pin, well, the middle pin of the wheel we know goes to the amp. So this is the pin we're on about, and you can see it's at 2.7 volts, and I think that's max volume. Yeah, so max volume on this is showing at 2.6-ish. If I turn it down, you can see that voltage nice and slowly drops with the wheel, continues to drop nice and steady, and then the pure silence on the clean amp, when it sees 0.6 volts, that's the point at which it'll trigger to completely cut off sound, because by now this wheel is almost at the bottom. So you see that turn from, that's completely off, and that turn there is the lowest volume. So this last little bit of turn is where we cut off. So a normal wheel, you can see it's not dropping to 0 volts because of them two resistors, the 4.7k and the 470. But what we want to see, presuming this is a working and good GBA, we want to get the range roughly from 0.35 volts all the way up to, say, 2.5. And now we can do some math on that as well. So let's not rely on just the sheer fact that we're presuming that's right. We have a schematic so we can actually calculate what it should be. But let's see if it matches our measurements. Put my fan back on charge for the fume extraction. Fix those yellow teeth, mate. That's alright, I'm not American. I'll stick with my teeth, thanks. I needed to see about fixing an original PS2. We don't work on the fats anymore, only the slims, unfortunately. Install clean cool. Right, so now let's look at the schematic and do some measurements to make sure that we've got it exactly where we want it. So all this is forming as a voltage divider. So we have the 470 ohm here, and then turned fully off or on. Let's presume this is turned all the way down, so this is 0 ohm. We've got a resistance of, or a voltage divider of 470 and 4.7k. So if you don't want to do the math, then you can do, get a new one. We'll go to, let's find a resistor, voltage divider. And we can just be lazy and use a little online calculator. So this is one you can use, and then in here we have source voltage, so we don't really care too much, but I suppose we should actually measure what voltage is going in, because I said I wasn't sure whether that was going to be regulated or battery voltage. So let's put them in. Let me just measure the voltage on pin 3 so we know what we're dealing with, because that will form, obviously, the final voltage. So we'll go ground on here, pin 3. So that's 2 point, why is that dropping? 2.6. So we need to actually measure firstly, not there, we need to measure R37 or something it is. Let's just find that first, because it's already going through a resistor which will voltage divide. So we need to just find, I think it was R37 it looked like, and it's a 470 ohm, and it will be there, R37, so it's going to be this resistor here, one of these two pins, either this pin, 2.6, or this pin. Right, so that's 2.6, which is a strange voltage, because I'm inputting 3 volts. Nothing is 2.6. So let me just double check the schematic properly and find out where VCC is coming from and what it should be, because I'm sure VCC is, well, in fact, let me just measure the input on here. Maybe it's dropping. Yeah, so it's actually, it is the battery voltage if we go over to here. But this is another thing with the GBAs. These have very poor fuses or power switches. So if we go here, well, we're going to have to do it this way. Basically what I'm going to do is probe on the input here, which is the fuse, and you can see the voltage drop happening through. So I'm going to probe on the fuse input, then after it's gone through the power switch, I'll probe on here, which is the voltage after the power switch, which is now actually changed. Yeah, and it's now to 3. So what I was going to explain is basically these switches need cleaning. So 3 volts is coming in, but we lost 0.4 volts on there. Whereas now I have cleaned the power switch, well, I basically slid the power switch slightly. If I bring this in, you can see it's gone back up to the 3 volts. So you can see that's now 3 volts. So it is battery voltage. That does also mean that the volume wheel is going to change with the battery's level. So your volume is going to naturally go down as your battery drains, which is just something to bear in mind. And this is actually measuring now 3 volts down to 0.4 volts. So that's what we want to go roughly in that area. So we're now getting between 3 and 0.4 volts. So if we put that into the voltage divider calc, so we put 3 volts in, the top resistor was the 470 ohm. We're going to ignore the wheel because we turned it all the way up or down, and the bottom one was 4,700. If we calculate, you can see we're getting 2.7 volts. So we're getting roughly 3 volts, which is obviously close enough in the range. Then if we added the wheel in between this, that would mean that if we went to the, where are we? Back in here. If we now added this wheel back into the mix, this can add up to 30k. So that means if we're tapping off and we've gone to the top, up there, we're going to add 30k, so it'll be 34.7. So if we did 34,700, calculate the other way around then, 34,700, 470, calculate, you can see we've got the 0.04. So it matches with what we've observed. That's what we want to do. Ultimately, we want to just see the volume pin go between almost ground, like 0.0 something at the low end, and up to battery voltage. That's the key. So if we now replace this, we'll do it on the customers, and we'll find the issue with the customers first. And then we want to replace the 30k one with a 10k and see what the problem is, and then fix it basically, so we can start using these widely available. Got the clean juice stuck on the spring there. The widely available potentiometers basically. Never had that happen before. The springs, there we go. Springs managed to lock right the way between the clean juice spring hole. There we go. Right, so that's the clean juice out. We don't need that on. Right, let me just jump back on the comments a minute. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent, in the UK. I've got no IPA. Universal HDMI, I will, yeah, it's one of those things I wanted to do. All I really need to do is finish off doing the clean RGB mods, like the drop-ins. I've just done one for the Mega Drive 2 now, so it's a drop-in RGB, clean RGB mod. Once I've done that across the board, I can make a little circuit that converts RGB perfectly to HDMI, and that'll just work across the board with every clean RGB product we have. So all these ones I'm making for the consoles, the clean HDMI would just be an add-on that you can connect in line with the clean RGB and convert them up to HDMI. Because basically that's what most converters would do anyway. You'd figure out and get up to RGB and then convert it into HDMI for the perfect output. So we've already done half of that work basically by doing the clean RGB stuff, and the HDMI stuff isn't that hard because you're mainly using, you'll use like libraries that exist. Most people's mods are either hardware chips that already do the conversion for them. So they just buy an RGB to HDMI chip and put it on a board. Or they'll use something like a Raspberry Pi Pico and use an open source like Pico DVI, which HDMI is effectively also DVI in some forms. You can just use a Pico library that converts DVI into HDMI. Sorry, it converts RGB into DVI, which you can just connect to a HDMI port and it works. So it's not that hard. It's one of those things you'd think was hard, but it's actually harder to do the RGB than it is the HDMI. Right, so this is out of here. So it's got the latest stuff on at the minute. We'll move the clean screen out of the way. And here is the board. So we've got, you can see before I made the little board, you can use a clean power. This has got the clean light, clean screen. It also has the new Retro 6 speaker, nice clear speaker, and the clean amp. So this should be monitoring on the vol pin here. This goes to the other side of the board and connects to that vol pin, this pin 2, and that's what we're presuming is wrong, so we can test that. And then once we've tested that, we could replace this. It might not be the wheel, and then we might not have to do that, but we'll see. Footy, I'm not really a footy fan, to be honest, but the kids love Stoke. They're Stoke fans. I think they went to one of the recent games. They're doing quite well as well, I think, at the minute in the league. Upscaling, again, the HDMI upscale stuff will work automatically. Part of just the chips that you do or the code that you write will work, but generally you do 1080p. You don't need to upscale any more than that, because then the TVs can upscale the signal past that perfectly clean. Right, so let's power this up and move that down a minute. TikTok's banned again. I'm going to end up stopping streaming on TikTok, by the way. So if you're on TikTok at the minute, I'd just jump over to YouTube or Twitch, because TikTok's banning me literally every single live video. They just ban. There's no point me even having it streaming and having 2 chats to try and keep on top of and all that lot. So I'll probably drop TikTok soon. It's just starting to piss me off, like constantly blocking the lives all the time. It's just useless. No point in doing it. Right, so we will have the vol wheel. Let's measure this. It's a shame because we had like 500 viewers on TikTok the last time, but it just isn't worth it. They're just constantly complaining about anything. Basically, I can't do the lives I'm doing with TikTok because they just keep doing that, and it's pointless. We've then got a live stream enabled showing 8 viewers when we get hundreds and hundreds. It's just one of them things that's not worth wasting the bandwidth on. So this is turned on. If we measure the pin 2, and we can see here now, so goes up to 2.9 fine, go down, it's going down fine, and this seems perfectly fine, this wheel, but it actually doesn't get to the 0.6, so this shouldn't even be cutting off, and yeah, it is. So it's cutting off here at like 1.2 volts. We need a gain so we can hear it. So it looks like it's actually either a clean amp issue or a solder pad issue. It is a volume wheel potentiometer, yes. I'll crack one open in a minute and show you the insides of one. So let's just listen to this and find out what voltage it's actually dropping off at. Doesn't seem like that's even loaded. There we go. You can also see one issue of I've either knocked off that the dehum, or it's come off. So this pad's I think it's probably just been, oh, I haven't even got my iron turned on. Do I ever sleep? Yeah, I've worked all weekend as well, to be honest. I do sleep. I'm getting about 4 or 5 hours sleep at the minute every night and operating fine on it, which is the lowest amount of sleep I've had for a long while. But yeah, it's not affecting me. I've been doing it now for about 2 weeks, probably the 4 hours a night sleep. It's crazy. Maybe 5 or 6 sometimes, but yeah, nice and early, get lots done. Right, so back to what we were doing, which was measuring the voltage of the wheel. Now we know well, I've designed the clean amp, so I know when it should cut off. This should be cutting off at 0.6 volts, and if we look on here, we'll let the game load, and then we'll turn the volume down till it cuts off. I've got a feeling this game isn't loading. We need to give it some IPA for good luck. Just try again. We're definitely going to have to get another game. This one is not loading. This is obviously quite a dodgy one. Hey, morning. Yeah, had a good weekend. Got lots done. Did a ton of software on the Angel 6 side, so I've been doing that nearly all weekend. But yeah, I've had a good one. I've been getting on top of things. Then we've got absolutely mad amounts of consoles in now. Prestige consoles and things we've got to do. Why is this not loading now? I'll have to plug a screen back in if not, because this is for some reason deciding, I'm pretty sure it's not loading. Oh, the GBA switch wasn't tricking in. We kept hearing the GBA boot sound. That should have given it away. Oh yeah, it's getting crazy. We're getting like Prestige maxed out, GameCubes, Saturns, PS1s, Neo Geos, Amigas. Absolutely crazy at the minute. And I go away next week, so I won't be on all next week. So it's going to be literally from that to the run to Christmas is going to be insane, I think. Right, so volume wheel. Let's see when it cuts off. Why is it now working? Well, I say it's working. That shouldn't be that low at this level, to be honest. So it's actually... But the strange thing here now is the wheel is actually turning the volume down, and you heard before it was max volume almost before it cut off. But this, at this level, 1, it shouldn't be that quiet. I can't even hear it. Like it's gone. Oh, so the clean... It's two problems. The clean amp is cutting off at 1.2, but I suspect it's cutting off at the right volume now because the volume is actually really quiet on the clean amp, on the actual amp already, and then it cuts off. So this is not, either of these are not the thing we were experiencing. So the voltage is too high for one, the 0.64, but it's also cutting off. I'd say it's cutting off at the exact right point. Yeah, that's definitely, it's cutting off now at the right point. The wheel's now working, but the voltage is wrong. Like that should be below 0.6 when it cuts off. It's all a little bit strange. So let's measure the pin of the actual amp, the volume pin. Yeah, that is bizarre. So we have a voltage that's too high, but it's working. Like, why is it now working? That's normally a sign the volume wheel's dirty. So I'm still going to go ahead and replace it because this hasn't worked for the customer, and I think it's an international. So we don't just want to go ahead and clean this volume wheel because it looks like the clean amp's working, but I think the volume wheel's a bit dicey. So there is a capacitor on the volume wheel which will interrupt with the voltage readings a little bit. But I don't like the fact that that was just working and now doesn't. So we're going to swap this wheel out for a brand new one. Obviously the brand new ones, as you mentioned, won't work right to start with, but we are going to make them work right. So all we need to do is make the voltage divider work correctly. So it's a bit of simple math when we're done. So let's just get this wheel swapped off, and then we'll see what the voltages do and what the audio does, and we're not having to worry about a potentially dirty wheel randomly changing values. Gengar Hoodie, no, it's little sharky hoodie, as I call it. So, a little Bape hoodie. I just like the shark. I saw it years ago, and I could never find it. And then when I went Manchester, probably a year or so ago, or a few years ago, can't remember, I think it was a year ago, I saw them in a store, and I was like, oh, I want them. So I brought a couple of them, and I just like the shark, but it's a fancy make, so it cost a fortune. But I didn't actually know that at the time. I just thought it was a cool hoodie, and but it costs a fortune. It's the only downside. I just wanted the hood. That's all I cared about. Just like the purple shark. We're just going to log cabin for just a couple of days with Rusty, so like Monday to Friday. I'll do orders Monday. I'll probably be on live stream Monday morning, because I'll be up well before we're ready to go. I'll probably get half a day's workout. But yeah, we're just going to sit in a log cabin, go in a hot tub, eat, drink, and sit with Rusty. So basically, perfect little holiday. So that's the clean amp off. There's the vol pin underneath, which goes to the other side of what we were just measuring, so that voltage is what we were measuring. We have a leg here that might not have been helping. A random piece of metal sitting under that might have been bridging the SP pad to here. In fact, that might have been what it was. But either way, we're going to commit to this and swap the wheel anyway, because I don't trust it. We've got to be careful here removing this, because we don't want to melt this. I can't remember whether we have these ports replacements. I literally can't remember. Got a lot of spamming going on in the chat. It's a good job it doesn't show up on stream. It's the perfect time why we've done sub-only chats on stream, because got some random chats going on. Right, yeah, so I don't know whether we've got a spare one of these, but these are quite easy to remove. So there's two little pins here that you can't see very well. It doesn't look like they've got solder in, these little gold tabs, but they have. These hold the cage either side, and then when it lifts off, these pins come up. So what I tend to do is just get some solder on here, flood these pins with solder, so it will actually go in them holes. Doesn't look like it, but it will. Get me a little fan, because I don't want to keep inhaling all these fumes. And then while you're flowing it, I'm going to wedge my tweezers between the wheel and the PCB as best I can. And then when I warm up the pads, I can pry it away from the PCB normally. And then you hear that click, and basically it's already started lifting up now from the PCB. So you can see that slight lift there. That's now the solder, so I'm wedging the tweezers between there, warming up, get plenty of solder on the pads, warm up them pads, and then twist up and out while you're doing it. So see that lifting up, and then this side will go on that hole and lift that side up like so. And then once it's so far up, you can almost just get your iron on this side and warm it up much easier to lift out. So you can see that one desoldered nice and easy. And then this side, same thing, just make sure we don't melt the headphone port, that's the key thing. Can you see that there? Yeah, you can see it there. So warm up under here and lift. And now you can see that's fully disconnected, so these pins are not connected now to the PCB. You get tweezers through the gap, so that's loose. And then we can go back to this side, flood these with solder, try not to knock the resistors and caps off that are right by it, and just warm them all up in one go and lift this off. So that's how I get that off. I'd just do it much easier with hot air if it wasn't for this, but that's now off. So the original one's here, and again this won't be as good as a brand new one, so it's getting a nice upgrade for that. We'll get some desolder with and clean this up. Thanks for the subs guys as well, got a few extra subs coming in. And we will zoom in on here, get a nice shot for you. We'll put a little bit of flux on, help with the flow. Get my fan back out. amazing how quick your desks get full of stuff all over it when you're working. And then again, just make sure we don't melt that headphone port and knock off the resistors and stuff here. Probably need a new piece. And luckily the GBA's PCBs are actually quite good for desolder wicking and cleaning. That most systems aren't. Like normally this would be a lot harder to desolder wick, but the GBA's are pretty good for it. I need some IPA so I can clean that up. Bottle's empty. And incredibly sticky, so I need some IPA to clean the IPA. It's ironic I've got to clean the IPA bottle with IPA. So clean the bottle first, it was literally sticky as. And I'll fill it up, and then we're probably going to have to gently warm that. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use that super dodgy Chinese magic fluid that cleans flux off that I don't know what it is and I don't want to touch yet. Because now this is dry, this is a perfect test. This would be super sticky now if I try to wipe it off with just IPA. So if I just clean the... How did the bottle get so sticky as well? 2 seconds, I'm just getting my IPA bottle back. So if I try to wipe this off, it's it's cooled. See how sticky that is and gunky. So when you wipe, you're left with residue. But I have this awesome stuff from China that I don't know what it is, but it's magic. I'm scared of it because it's so good and I don't know what it is and does, and so I don't want to get anything on my hands until I've figured out what the hell it is. But I'm going to dip in here, cover my eyes so I don't splash any in my face. Yeah, we do fix Atari consoles. If you go to retro6.co.uk, you can find send-in services there. Ooh, hi from Tahiti. We are, at the minute, well, we're about to use some fancy Chinese fluid that's magic. Watch this. So that's not warm flux, that's normal cold flux. And it just wipes away. So this is not how a normal cotton wool bud would have done this. This just, it wipes away flux like it's warm. So let's get a bit more of that magic random fluid on. And yeah, look, it just wipes away. It's crazy. Just sticks to the stick. So here's the burnt piece. And you'll see, look, that dark crusted flux. If you've ever tried to clean flux off, you know if this isn't warm, and especially the dark brown stuff, this would be very hard to clean. And look, it's just like, I don't know what it's doing, just literally dissolves it. Absolutely perfect. This is what they use in PCB factories, by the way. This is the same fluid. It's just, like I say, I have no data sheet on it, so I don't really want to touch it when I'm doing it, but either way, it's absolutely crazy good. So I just wanted to use that for the sake. I could have just warmed it up and cleaned it off. I just wanted to show you guys the magic China fluid. So now I'm going to use some IPA to get rid of whatever that was on there, because again, don't know what it is yet. We read the ingredients on Google Translate, but I don't know what that is either. So that doesn't really help me knowing what the ingredients are. I don't know whether they're safe or not yet. So yeah, what we're doing basically is replacing the volume wheel on a Game Boy Advance. So we have a customer's Game Boy Advance here, and we're swapping the volume wheel out because it was cutting off at mid-volume quite high. Now, ironically, since I've opened it, and probably just because I've had IPA and stuff around, the volume wheel's now working, but the voltage is wrong even though it's working, so something isn't right. So I thought at the same time as doing this, we might as well swap this out. So this is now a brand new potentiometer you can get on AliExpress, B103. So that just, the 103 means 10 and then 3 zeros, so 10k. So this is just a 10k pot. We don't care about, the only thing we didn't check actually is the orientation of the wheel. So they're the two wheels. Here's the perfect time to test them, because if you test them in circuit, you're going to get the wrong readings due to the capacitor. Not out of coffee. I have to on to tonic now. No, soda. Oh yeah, I had, talking about scary fluids, I had a flux one time. I think it's a well-known make, like chemical, something or other chemical. I won't say Chemical Bros, but I think that's a YouTube channel. But some kind of chemical. And I used it for soldering, and literally the minute the solder, like the fumes, hit my throat, I was coughing straight away, like really physically hurt my throat immediately. And that was like a well-known brand as well. Right, so this is measuring 27k, so this is a 30k pot. This one, obviously, we know is 10k, so I can appreciate you can't see that. I'm going to get it so I can put like a little voltmeter on screen. I do have it. I have it in several different ways of doing it, but it involves using a phone and streaming and stuff. I don't want to do that yet. Oh yeah, I've one of the guys that's usually on the stream as well can get me a crazy cool coffee machine, so I'm half tempted to end up with, if I put a coffee machine in this room, that's all you'll be hearing on stream, just the coffee machine going off. So what I want to check here is I want to go between, say, the right and the middle pin, turn it all the way clockwise, like there, say, and I need to know which pin, so we don't do the volume inverted, if you know what I mean. If this wheel's backwards, when the volume's up it'll be down, and when it's down it's up. So volume wheel all the way to the right on this one is 0 ohms. So volume wheel on all the way to the right on this one, we need the pin that's going to be 0 ohms. And that's 20k, so that is backwards. Actually, yeah, this is the other confusing part. This has actually got 20k's inside. So it's this pin. So what we want is this pin, and the end pin. So if we snip these middle two pins off, just so we don't get confused, those now are the pins we want to use. So remember, this one, even though it has 5 pins, these 2 pins aren't used. So they do nothing, they don't even go anywhere. This one now, you can imagine this pin is effectively the center pin. So we can solder that to the PCB now, and then we're going to have to adjust the PCB to work with the new resistor, which, let's double check, that's 10k, and if we go from here and turn the wheel all the way up, the max is 10k. And is it a gradient that goes down? See, it isn't as well, so maybe I've cut the wrong pin off for what we want. Yeah, so I actually think, tell you what, let's cut the top off this and see what's going on. It's easier to see inside so we know what's going on. And bear in mind, this is the ones of mine, this isn't the customer's. But at least you guys can see inside the wheel then. I always find potentiometer wheels much easier to see, much easier to understand when you just see inside versus measuring, because you can get confused measuring and wonder what's going on. Whereas once you see inside, it's very obvious what's going on. Right, so that is inside, because something isn't right there, because when we turn it just off max, we end up with the resistance going from 10k up to 20 and then back down, so that's going to cause right strange behaviour with the audio. If we'd have done a straight swap over, not only would it have been backwards, it would have also been constantly either full volume or quiet, one or the other, because it's completely wrong. So here's a potentiometer for those of you that wonder what the inside is. And now if I prop that up a little bit so the glare isn't on. Wow, getting the ceiling lights to not glare. There we go. Right, that's zoomed in enough. We can go in further, but we don't need to go that close, although that's quite cool actually. So there we go. That's the wheel. These black things, I haven't got me pointy now because I've just used it to hold that board up. We can have a classroom metal file pointy thing. Geez, that's zoomed in. So what we have here is, you can see this pin has 2 wipes, so it's connected to the same pin, but then it splits off into 2. So the outer 2 here should be the 10k. So this outer wheel is 10k here, 10k here. The inner one then, the pin we want to measure is wherever the wiper went, which I have conveniently cut and binned already. Let me see if I can find the wiper. Or am I going to have to cut another one? I'll have to cut another one open to see where the wiper goes. But the wiper will go, obviously, from the centre pin. So the centre pin is the one we want to measure. And the wiper blade will go... well, actually, the centre pin is one, and this pin's the other. So yeah, these two pins are the pins we should measure. So that should have worked. One of them two should have had a smooth turn. So basically the wiper blade will move over these two at the exact same time in the centre. But then there'll be two wiper blades, one that reaches to this one and one that reaches to this one. And then they'll output on these two pins. This is a dual wiper blade and we only need one. So we did have the right pins, but when we were turning slightly so far, it was glitching out and going to 20k. So why would that be? Yes, why would it be? That shouldn't be. I think that's just maybe the quality of these wheels. So if we measure over here, we have 10k. The only way we're getting 20k is to go from here all the way around, back through, back down, and to here. So these two pins will be 20k, which is right. So what must be happening when we are seeing... obviously we haven't got a wiper blade on, so we can't test that. Let's get another one now. I wonder if we just had a faulty wheel. So from here, zoom out a little bit, now we're a bit zoomed in. We now know what's inside it. So this is the 10k, which is correct. This will be 20k, which it is, and that shouldn't change when we're scrolling the wheel, which it doesn't. But this to, well, this to here is the inverse one. This is there, so this goes from 15k. Yeah, it was just a faulty wheel, so this one's working fine. So this one must have had the wiper blade inside, slightly bending and lifting, and when it lifted we ended up with no voltage. So we had it right, but strangely enough that brand new one was slightly faulty. So we'll do exactly what we were doing, which is to cut them two pins, and now we have these three pins we did mention, so we have done it right. And at least you've seen inside now of what goes on. And it'd be nice to do. It's simpler to understand the single ones, not the duals, because the duals are a bit confusing if you don't know how they work already. So what we can do is solder this one on now with them pins, and then we will see what happens to that voltage. You'll see it's off, and this is where everybody else that's trying to figure this out and do them, they do it all wrong, like classic fashion. When you see online, pretty much everything that's done online is usually wrong. So there's loads of variations of this where people will cross bridge and double pins and add resistance and stuff. We're going to do it properly now. So you can see here we want this one soldered to pin 3, this one soldered to pin 2, pin 1, and the middle one we want to be soldered over to this pin here. So we could just bend this down and get it connected if we can get a nice little bend on it. And then we just want to make sure them other tabs don't touch, basically. So as long as they don't touch, even if they look like they're about to touch, they're fine. So this can solder like that. We can bend that out a little bit as well, if we can. There we go. So we can blob solder on there. This pad and this pad aren't connected, so literally solder can go onto them. It doesn't matter as long as they don't, you don't bridge all three, so that it makes a connection. Consumer perspective, assuming it was made for GBA. Yeah, this wheel is actually a fairly standard one. It's not necessarily just GBAs. There's loads where these are used, but there are tons of people that buy these wheels off AliExpress and just solder them onto GBAs and think like they work and the volume's constantly low or constantly high. So it's time, in fact, just trim them legs a little bit as well. So I think it's just long overdue. I'll show you how to do this properly. And then anyone that wants to do this, I'm sure then somebody's going to come up with a little flex board that this sits on and drops in nice and easy, and take all the credit for it, because that's the way of the GBA community, is pretty much thieves. So let's solder this on. We'll get one pad on. That's fine. And then we'll get the other pad on this side. and then we want this middle pad on now. So this is, we want it touching this wiper blade, not the other one. So now let's check from this angle. Let's zoom in for you. Oh, that is zoomed in. And let's zoom in even more just so you can see. Doesn't matter how close the pins are as long as they're not touching. You can see that is incredibly close even for my liking. So we will probably make sure, yeah, there's a physical air gap between there, but that is mad how that is close, but it's not touching. So you can see that's not going to make resistance because the tweezers fit through. It just looks crazy close. And the others are obviously soldered on there. So that is all we need for the wheel. Let's now see what this does with the volume, or we don't even need to necessarily hear the volume, we need to see the voltage across this new wheel, and you'll see this will be off, and then I'll show you why. I'm going to close TikToks down because they've screwed it up anyway. So TikTok, I don't know whether TikTok will carry on streaming or not. I've closed down the window open, sometimes it does. But yeah, if you're on TikTok now, get onto YouTube because I probably aren't going to stream on TikTok anymore. They're blocking every single stream. I'm an electronics engineer now, all self-taught. Voltage won't jump that far. You can do a calculation. This is 3 volts. You'd probably need 200, maybe 500 volts to jump that gap. You might even need more than that. You can do open air voltage arc calculator. Well, you probably just put it in ChatGPT these days and it'll tell you. Specialised formula, 30,000 times distance per centimetre per volt. So for a jump in a centimetre, you need 30,000 volts. That is, I can measure, well, that I know from my tweezers is easily 0.3 millimetre. So 0.3, 3, 10, 100, take off 100, it needs 300 volts to jump that gap. So we're 100 times a safety gap on that, as a quick calc. Yeah, doesn't look, like, it looks a bit odd, but I know it's fine, basically. So now let's power this up. There is no exact wheel for the original. This is something that I mentioned. I used to make mods for the GBA all the time, and I just got out the scene. It was just that toxic and horrible. I moved on to all the other scenes, and you know, we've enjoyed doing mods for them. Nobody's ever come up with a wheel for this because you know they can't. There's not many people in the GBA scene that have got much intelligence to invent mods. They only steal. So I'll show you how to do it on this one, and I'm sure you'll find within a few months there'll be magically drop-in wheels available for GBA. I could make one. I just tend to find stuff like this. I'm more interested in figuring it out than making the products. So like, other people will usually now beat me to the pip because I'll show people how to do stuff and then I can't be bothered to make a product. Basically, it's my own lazy fault really for not following through. I should probably invent a product then show you how it works, but like I say, I take more pleasure out of the inventing than the selling, to be honest. So now you can see that's the bottom, 0.9 volts, so it's too high. The top is 2.8, so the top's fine, there's no issue with that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But the bottom, if you scroll to the bottom, this is the issue. So now if we put the clean amp back on, what you'll find is this should be, it'll never cut off fully, and you'll always have audio. And if it's the right way around, or it'll never get to max volume. Depends which way around we're turning the wheel. But either way, one end of this wheel is going to be either too loud or too quiet. And it's just been that long since I've done this this wheel, I can't even remember which. So let's just chuck on the GBA clean amp, and then we can hear something. Pokemon Yellow won't save when replacing the battery. Could be just an actual bad. Oh, what the? What's that? Where the hell has that come from? Was that there at the beginning of the stream? What on earth? I'm gonna have to fix that after. Where did that come from? we've got a completely soldered in solder blob. What the hell? Like Venom's appeared on the board. I swear, because I say GBAs are easy work with, they purposely do stuff like this to me. Like, where the hell has that come from? That's like a fully, almost soldered down blob. I might have to even replace the clean light because that's where that's like tons of solder. That is strange. Yeah, that's gonna have to have a new clean amp after. sorry, a clean light. That's too much solder on that pad. That is bizarre. I don't even know where that's come from. Did anybody see that at any point on the stream? Has that like appeared while we've been working? I wonder if... It's not even in the same place. I was going to say, I wonder if when we were taking this wheel off, solder's blobbed, but it's over here. That's absolutely strange. That is very strange. Yeah, so I'll replace the clean light after. While I'm here as well, let me not forget to solder these anchor points in on the wheel. Let's make sure it's flat, which it is. Solder these anchor points in. Right, so we wanted to put the clean amp back on. That's what we were doing. So that can go on here. Yeah, so that's magically appeared while we've been on stream. That is absolutely bizarre. That must have fell off an iron, and I have no idea. All we've done is taken off a wheel and practically not soldered. That is so strange. Can't even explain that one. That is a mystery solder blob. Right, so clean amp goes on. You see the vol pad, that's where it wants to line up through. So there's the vol. Oh, what am I doing? See how long it's been since I've installed these? Don't even know which way the bloody mod goes. Where's the vol? That goes on there. The speaker goes on this pad here. And these two go down here. So we will probably solder maybe this one on awkwardly. Just get a dry joint on there first so it's in place. Now we can probably twist that. It's easier to do this with my hand. Oh, well, didn't like cool down enough. Yeah, that's probably where we want it position wise. These have also got under here. This new wheel needs snipping down because it doesn't need to, but it's hitting the clean amp. So we'll snip them pins flush. And then let's get these pads soldered in. It's better. Oh, you're not even seeing what I'm doing. So we'll get the vol pad soldered on. We'll then get this pad on, and then we can reflow the dry joint on the first one. And there we go. And then the last one will be this pad here. Right, so we've got the speaker on, the vol pad on, then pins on. So this should work now. So let's see what we hear. We're either going to hear audio that's never turning off, or audio that's too quiet as a whole. One of the two, and I'm not even sure which. Just I can't remember which way around. I'm pretty sure the higher voltage, which is what we've got, is higher volume. So I think we're going to have high volume, but it never cuts off, I think is what's going to happen. Pretty sure. What's the iron? No idea on wattage. It's just a JBC clone iron. There's loads of them on AliExpress. If you just search for C245 soldering iron, and there's loads of good clones. Right, there's the audio kicking in. So let's let the game load. And now, yeah, let's wait for it to carry on. Now if we turn this wheel down so you can see. If we turn this wheel down, why are you working? Why is it working perfect now? This one's working absolutely perfect, but you know why? We've got the strange issue on this one where the this amp is kicking off at the 1.2 volts, not the 0.6 volts like the other one. So this one's actually working because there's something else with this amp, probably one of these two resistors, the R37 or the R, let's pull up the schematic, the R37 or the R14, so either this resistor here or this resistor, I'd suspect is out of spec, because that shouldn't be that shouldn't be working like that, basically, because as we've seen on the other ones, they don't cut off of that. Or it could be the clean amp cutting off too soon, which would that matter? Basically, the lower the voltage, the lower the volume. At this voltage here, which is going to be like the 1 volt, I think it is, at this stage. So let's go on to, go on to here. Yeah, that's at 1 volt. That shouldn't be completely silent. It should be like another 0.3 volts, and that's definitely completely off. Yeah, so that's literally working perfect through pure coincidence in this case, because that's not how this should work. So if we want to correct that voltage, let's correct it anyway, because it should be going lower than that, and see if we can find out why it's even doing it on this. So the only two components involved in this voltage divider are R37. So we pulled up the schematic, this one. You can see the reason the top end, the 3 volts, is still fine is because R37 here is only 400 ohms, like 470 ohms. So this one is that low of a value. When this goes from 30k to 10k, it doesn't make much of a difference to the high end. But the lower one here, the R14, this should be 4.7k, and I can only suspect this is out of spec, this 4.7k. We should be able to measure that in circuit because it goes nowhere else. Oh, it does, it goes back as a reference voltage to the VREF pin. But let's just see what it measures in circuit out of curiosity, and we'll compare it to the other GBA. I mean, ironically, we could leave this as is on this board because it's got a good wheel and it's working, but I'm more curious now as to why this one is working at the wrong value. So there you go, 3.2. That should be 4.7, but we're measuring in circuit, so let's compare this to the working one. And get on the pins. There you go, 4.2. So this, strangely, this resistor, which is the one we were going to change to adjust that voltage divider, is out of spec on this console. So it's what we were going to do was lower this resistor. That's literally the thing that we were going to do to make this work, and I was showing you, is that all you've got to do is change this 4.7k resistor. Because this resistor's lowered the 30k to 10k, we'd need to lower the 4.7 down, but that resistor should be a 4.7k, so we don't want to leave it on because it's clearly failing because it's getting lower, but we do also want to change that value. So what we'd want to do is work out the correct voltage to get to under 0.6 volts, really. That's where we want to be at. So we'll get the resistor divider calculator back up. And then what we want to do is we had 3 volts in, 470 at the top, 4.7k at the bottom, and that was giving us the high end. And then in this case we had what would have been effectively 30,470, which was giving us the 0.4 volts. That's the exact voltage we measured on this working one to the T. That's exactly what we measured. So now what we're going to have, we want to see the 0.4 volts, but we have 10,470 now because it's a 10k resistor. So what we're going to get is 0.9, which is what we see. We see 1 volt. So we need to change this 4.7 until the bottom one's 400. So if we did the 100, you can see the 6.7. So you want to do maybe 1k. No, 2k. So 1.8, 1.6. So you want to be around a 1.6k resistor. That's what we want to do to use a 10k pot on here to make it work correct. So if we looked at this, we need to take R14 off and swap it with that. But the fact this actually works pretty much right on the customers is because this resistor's out of spec. Could you make that up though? We've swapped a wheel that is lower resistance, and we've fixed the problem because the other resistor that's out of spec is already pretty much the value it wants to be if the wheel was lower resistance. So it's kind of a bit ironic. So now we want a resistor that is, I think that's no 402, yeah it is. So we want an 0402 resistor, which is here. And we want the closest thing to 1.6k. We have 1.6k, so we'll put a 1.6k resistor on, we go, there's 3 of them. And you can see the solution to it is very basic electronics. There's not much to it. You're just basically making a voltage divider. It's mainly just understanding how this works. Now, because this is quite close, let me just plug in my microscope and we'll go nice and close on this, because I'm definitely going to get my head in the way on this one and I want to see what I'm doing. So, if the microscope works first time, it does not. So settings, deactivate, activate. There we go. We can now get nice and close on here. Get the light in. And then you guys can see then a bit better what I'm doing. I know it's a bit glary, but I need to see what I'm doing. So we'll do that. Bit of flux. And then grab one of these resistors. I'm actually going to also turn this around because I want to work sideways like that. We want to pre-tin that pad as much as we can. And then blob salt on the other pad. Should be enough on the iron still. And there we go, nice little job. That was worth fully setting up the microscope camera for. So now we have that soldered in. We should see now the voltage based on the math. We should get the volume wheel going below the 1 volt now, and it should get closer to 0.4 when we turn down. That's what we should have done by changing that resistor, basically. Let me just open the gates a second. I can hear Rusty crying as well. Oh, what are you complaining about? You idiot. You won't be on stream, do you? Hey? Is that what you're whinging at? You've got a crying pug. You just want to be on every stream now, don't you? That's what you're doing. Oh, yeah. What are we looking at? Hey. What's that? What? It's a Game Boy. Yes, nothing special. You come for your treat, have you? Your morning extra snack. Oh, for you. Duck treat. Right there. You can have it on your table. Flux table. No messing, no drops. There we go, that's all you're having. He was sleeping, but he's heard somebody come, so now he's come get me. And I'm going to be covered in dog hairs. Yes, what? It's not food. You should know by now. Alright, can I get on with a bit of work? Hey? Oh, your bed's been taken. It's got consoles in. Back in 2 seconds. He's double dipping. He's having a treat out of each room. Right, so where were we? The Nintendo Rusty chip is safely away somewhere. I think it's in the SNES tub. I've hidden that away somewhere. In fact, has it ended up in the VDP tub? No, they are VDPs. Yeah, I think I've put it in the SNES tub, that one, out of the way. Oh no, it's right there. Still on my bench. We've got the rusty SNES IC. Right, so now we've got the volume wheel on here. We will put power on, and we should still obviously hear all the audio. But now it should fully cut off, and it should be, you might not notice a difference on stream, but the low volume should work accurately now. So that's the audio at the minute. And if we turn the wheel down, you can see, to be honest, that sounds more right and perfect. So, oh no, that's gone back to worse now because, yeah, so there is something else going on with the, I think the clean amp is cutting off at the wrong volume slightly. So the clean amp's now cutting off at that higher voltage. So the wheel is going to now measure correctly. If we put an original speaker on, this will work, but we also have a slightly faulty clean amp. So if we go on the voltage, it's just coincidental that this has got a couple of random issues where it's got a faulty volume wheel, but it's also got a faulty resistor and a clean just that's faulty. Like, all three things are out of spec, but it leads to a work, like, we just get it working by changing that resistor. It shouldn't cut off at that though. The clean amp, it doesn't really matter, but the clean amp should cut off at 0.6 volts because that's what the normal consoles output when they're low. Yeah, so there you go, the 1 volt. So the clean amp in this case is cutting off too low. But now if we turn the wheel all the way down, you can see we've correctly got the 0.48. So we wanted 0.4, but that's accurate enough, so 0.48. So this is now working as a completely correct wheel, and we just have a clean amp that's cutting off at the wrong voltage level. So we can either swap the clean amp, because the way I designed this circuit, it works on pretty much the transistor's volts. So you know what? I wonder if the factory have changed the transistor spec, because the way this works is it's working on the fact that the transistor diode actually has a volts drop of 0.6 volts. So when that transistor gets activated by the 0.6 volts, it's kicking in. So that means the transistor on this clean amp, which is this one, isn't kicking in until 1 volt. So the tolerance is slightly out, or this one. I'll check on the schematic now which it is. But yeah, if you're doing this mod, this is what you want to do. You'd want the 10k wheel, you'd want to cut this pin here and this pin here. You'd want to bend this one over to there, and you want to swap this for a 1.6k resistor. That's ultimately what you want to do. And this is now a correct wheel. This will work exactly like the original wheel now, but it's brand new. And then the other issue we now have has got nothing to do with that mod. It's this clean amp is triggering at the wrong voltage, and it might just be a tolerance thing on the transistor. I'm just going to see. I'm just going to open up my schematic of it and check which transistor it was. GBA clean amp, and that's GBA clean amp. There we go. Hardware. And this is one of the things that made it took so long for people to realise and clone this idea of the volume low turn off thing, because I was using basically a transistor in a way that wouldn't normally be used to trigger the turn off. So it works nicely, but it's kind of you're using the breakdown voltage over the gate basically of the transistor. So it took people a while to figure out how it was working before they could do it. This game is Pokemon Blue. This is a corrupt version. This has got corrupt graphics. I just use it for testing. So we have the vol pin here that triggers there to shut down. So it is. Let me open up the schematic. Over to this one. Right, it's the big one. So it is. This one here is the one that's out of spec, and it should be, let me just double check, part number, I'm just going to check I'm not going crazy, that the part number that's currently in the bill of materials for making this is the correct transistor, because I've got a feeling the factory have used a replacement one basically. Where are you sliding around? Is everything in your bed? Right, so the volts is, yeah, so I've updated, I think that's slightly, I've updated the part number I think on it to drop at the 1 volt. So this is actually set to drop at 1 volt at the minute, or the maximum is 1 volt. So it's within tolerance, it can drop as low as 0.7 or at most at 1 volt. So it is actually cutting off a little bit too soon. So the quickest solution for this one is I'm just going to change that resistor up to cut off at the lower end, and then I'm going to update the clean amp. I'll probably do a different circuit here as well, the way it works, so it's a bit more controlled. Like there's an easier way of doing this now than I've done, or a more accurate way. So yeah, this is also something, if you've got any amp or anything cutting off too soon or too late, if this volume was cutting off too soon, so your volume disappears halfway down the turn down, you want to increase this resistor. If you're turning this wheel down and it never cuts off, you want to decrease this resistor. That's basically what you do. So I'm just going to swap that resistor for the slightly higher one to tune it, because there's nothing wrong with the actual clean amp. It's working, it's just the transistor on there is enabling at 1 volt. So we just want to tweak our wheel so that the bottom end is just below that 1 volt, and that will then do what we want, which is to be max volume still at the top end, but cut off when it gets low. And then what I can do is I might make a little drop-in board over this that replaces this circuit, so sits over the top and connects to pads, alternate pads, and just bypasses all these and just, you know, taps onto the amp. Or I wonder if, what do you guys think of when I make this next clean amp, because I want to make another clean amp anyway, and I want to amplify the headphone port, not just that, why don't we tap off the inputs from the CPU, which are, I think these two pins here, no, these two pins here. This is the audio coming from the CPU. Why don't we completely bypass this amp, don't use it at all, tap off here, have a wheel that's already on the clean amp as well, so you just desolder the old one, get rid of it, and it sits over, replaces the volume wheel, and amplifies the headphone jack, and removes the, effectively you don't even use the amp on the GBA, so it's completely bypassing everything, regenerating the sound from the CPU, and then we can just use the off-the-shelf wheel as well. So if you're then doing a clean amp upgrade, you're going to gain a brand new wheel, as well as if your amp's bad, it'll work as well, plus you'll get headphone amps. So I think that's a potential good idea. I was going to say I can make a drop-in wheel that sits over here and solders to pads, but I can still do that. But I'm just thinking, do I focus on the GBA clean amp first, like the new version? Because a lot of people have wanted headphone amps. Obviously a lot of people use headphones, I know do as well, and it would be nice to have a headphone amp so you can hear nice and clear. Right, so we've got this little resistor here that now is going to up the voltage for us to work with this transistor. We've got a little pug behind us, happy and nuzzling in bed now, because I've plonked him in his bed, so he's all happy. I think I've got that without the microscope. Yeah, I can hear the little nuzzle going on behind. See if I can get him without him moving. He's probably going to... Uh-oh. I thought he was going to jump because he saw me. See if I can get him on camera for you. I might have to pull the chair in that way. I'm not going to get him, am I? There we go. That's one happy pug. That's what he does when he's happy. Bites his bed. That's just because there was stuff in his bed. Now I've moved it and now he's all happy because he's got his bed back. But he slips everywhere on this floor. because he's getting older, he like slips on the slippy floors, so he rarely comes in here because he struggles to get up. So now he's in the room, he's all happy. Oh yeah. Right then, back to some work. Right, so we've got that resistor on. I think that will now work again, which is where we wanted it. And yeah, that was unexpected. We had a faulty resistor that happened to be almost the perfect resistance for the new wheel's voltage to work correctly. And I've realised the transistor on this Clean Amp Pro, at least I think if it was on all of them, we'd have definitely noticed by now, but we've got one that's at the higher end of the voltage tolerance, so then it's cutting off too soon. So now we're back to this one, let's see. Full volume, let's wait for it to load. And now turn down. Nearly all the way, still hear it. And there we go, it's turned off at that last little bit there. And then kicks back in, so that's perfect. So you've got really low there. Like, there I can just about hear it. And you've got the last little quarter there. So we could always tweak that, but it's already that low there. Like, that's that low. Yeah, I don't think you need it any lower than that. And then you've got the full range. You've got a massive amount of range there. Yeah, that's perfect. So, on, off, on, off. So, that's working perfect for me. But that's basically how the system works. So, if you're ever curious of how that kind of circuit works, hopefully seeing this, you've now seen how it works. You know, you understand that it's basically a voltage divider from R37. So the battery comes in here, probably, or here. It'll come in one of the pins. The battery comes in here, likely. Goes through this resistor. This goes around that black wheel, through this middle pin, out through R40, whatever that is, R14, and then to ground this side. And ultimately that means you've got a voltage divider on pin 2 that goes into pin 9 of the amp here. So it's just a 0.4 volts is turned off and 3 volts is fully max volume. That's all that wheel does. So we've swapped out a 30k wheel now for a 10k, and this is exactly like the original now, basically. And then we've also discovered that the Clean Amps transistor on this one specifically is it's within tolerance. I've looked at the data sheet and it enables as soon as 0.7 and as late as 1 volt. So that's like the 1 volt is the guaranteed maximum voltage. When you work with obviously components, they have a variable range of when they'll enable, basically. So if I show you the data sheet so you know what I'm talking about and I'm not just talking through my arse, if I pull up the data sheet, this is the MOSFET that's on here, and we can see here's the gate. The way I make it work is to use the gate threshold voltage to trigger. This can trigger as low as 0.45, which is obviously the very lowest we saw, 0.4. The volume then at 0.7 is slightly turned up, but the latest this can trigger is 1 volt. So it's the perfect range where the typical value here should be 0.7. So that should be exactly where it turns off. This particular one is turning off at 1. Now, it's not a problem because it's within its spec, but it does mean we've had to tweak the resistor on the Game Boy. So if you ever got a Clean Amp and you have the issue where you think it's turning off a bit too soon, just swap R14 for a slightly higher resistor, basically, if it's turning off too soon. But yeah, that's that one all sorted. And I've got to really crack on with a whole load of work today. So we've got a PS1 that's up next. Then I've got a Neo Geo. Well, I'll tell you. Let me pull up my list of what I'm going to try and get through today. Got to wrap up a bunch of stuff on the desk. We've got to fix a Lynx 2 bouncer. A PS2 needs a clean and service. A Neo Geo AES maximum build with everything. An Amiga 1200 that I've been saying for about a week and a half needs building. That's going to get done. We've got 2 GameCubes, a Sega Saturn, a GBA, and 5 Game Gears and a sale. There's no way we're getting all that done today, not even close. But I need to now kind of jump on and focus because obviously streaming takes quite a bit more time, basically. You know, it takes me longer to do things on stream and chat than it does working. So I'm going to jump off stream for today, crack on, and I'll come back on later when we've caught up a bit. I just need to focus and get on, basically. Oh yeah, I can game some doggy shoes, definitely. How long does it take to learn to fix game cartridge games? As in, like, repair these? Not much at all. So, shall we have a quick go at fixing this Game Boy Blue then? I think this was let me move this. Well, I'm not going to move because Rusty will move. I'll stay here a minute, but I'll just get Zach build up this Game Boy. You've seen my Game Boy building skills. I haven't done them in that long. Zach's definitely better at them. I'm going to leave that for him to build up and swap that random pad on the clean light as well. Get that back to the customer. Screws he's got spare, but I'll put them in as well. Just clean up my desk a minute. Leave that dangling. Right, so let's show you how to repair, because this is actually broken. Do I have a Game Boy lying around other than that one? Let's see if this one works. I'll show you the fault with this. I don't have a Game Boy at arm's reach to show you, or do I? If I can stand up without Rusty noticing. Otherwise he'll go, oh, there's nothing in there, damn it. I don't want Rusty disappearing. I think you saw at the start of the stream this was corrupt, so I'm going to have to bring this one back, aren't I? And plug it in. The things you do so that Rusty doesn't move. Let me get this screen out, because he's going to have to lens drop it again anyway. And then plug this in. So I'll try not to dirty the screen so he doesn't have to get a new screen as well. Let's turn on the Pokemon Blue, and this one is actually corrupt and not working. So we can turn off the console, turn on, and of course the game's in the way of the screen, so we're going to have to turn it round like that, so that you can even see. That's not even recognising the game. There we go. So, you'll see on this, I'll probably have to zoom in on this one. Low battery on this. Everything's low battery. I've got my fan on charge because that's low battery. The little camera controller thing's low battery. Come on, there we go. So, there's the corruption you can see. Obviously we've got the brightness turned down, but see how the Pokemon sprites are completely corrupt. So this might just be a bad game. Like, there might be nothing we can do about this. But let's take a look. If it's the ROM itself, then generally you can't replace the ROM. Well, you can replace the ROMs, but you might as well effectively buy a new game at that point, because you're replacing the thing that the game is. So you need a game bit. These are called game bit drivers, and this one is the 3.8 game bit driver, and that's just to take out this little screw. And then slide that down and open up. And yes, this has had, this has had a FRAM mod, and it's been done. I don't think you just drop that in, so this has been done wrong. So probably whether this will boot without the FRAM at all, that's the first thing. But if you wanted to repair this, the first thing you'd do is look for any trace rot here, any green or dark patches. You'd look for broken traces, so anything like oh, we are fully zoomed in there. I keep thinking with the microscope we're not fully zoomed in. See this little dot here? You might think that's a broken trace, so you might want to measure that, but I can see that's still got full copper on. You'd look around all these pins for, again, any signs of rot or damage, and you'd look around all these. So there's not that many pins. You'd basically observe this board looking for anything that looks suspicious. You'd check things like these. 0 ohm resistors are good. We don't have a crystal on here either, which won't be, I don't know whether, pretty sure Pokemon Blue's meant to have a crystal on there, X1. So this has obviously been messed with. I don't know whether this is one we messed with, or whether it was one we were, I think I was trialling out a way to do the FRAM mod before we did it. But the crystal's obviously missing as well. The crystal shouldn't affect the graphics though, so the issue we're likely looking at here In this case, because there's no damage, if there was, you'd reflow pins, you'd lift the chips off maybe and repair them, but overall in terms of repairing these, they're very easy to repair. Or at least they're very easy to see if they're possible to repair. So in this instance, the fact this is faulty, the only thing I can see wrong is a missing crystal, which I don't think, 99% sure the missing crystal wouldn't cause the graphics glitches. But we also have an FRAM mod. I know this because this isn't the standard chip. And I also know this isn't wired in right, because you should have wires on this. You can't just straight swap it in. So what I'm going to do to try and fix this one specifically is remove this chip. But yeah, in terms of fixing these boards, you can see there's nothing else on them. You're just looking for trace damage or rot on these very few amounts of traces. The one thing people can do is on here, get a pencil eraser, rub them clean, and then some IPA and rub these to give these pins a good clean, because if you've got poor contact as well, you won't get good game load. So I'm just going to whip this save off for now, and you won't be able to save the game, and then I could probably do the FRAM mod correctly after. But it'll be interesting to see if the FRAM mod's on. I bet this can corrupt graphics, because that means the RAM chip for game saves can actually corrupt visual graphics if so. That's just something we'll learn by proving this now, basically. So that's that chip off. And on this we have the memory bank controller here, the MBC, which banks different parts of the memory and ROM so it can output more data. And this is the ROM, this is the actual Pokemon game. So this is the magic of the Pokemon Blue game. This is the thing that talks to the Game Boy and switches different banks inside of here. This is the thing that saves your game here, the SRAM. And then up here you've got a crystal, and I can't remember whether this is actually is there a clock in Pokemon? I can't actually remember what this one is at the minute. And there's your game save battery that powers this chip here typically. This wouldn't need battery because it's got an FRAM mod, which is on here, but I just know how this has been installed is wrong. I can tell because there's no wires, and this does need modding with wires. So I'm going to suspect the fact that this has just been plonked down and also has corrupt graphics, it's going to be one in the same. I think that's going to have caused the corrupt graphics. That's my presumption in this case. So let's see if that's the case. Leave the screw off, I guess. Go to the side view, and if I get this in now, let's see if we fix that graphics issue. Turn on. Game still loads, so we know it loads without the SRAM at all. There's a rusty hair on the desk. And then do we get the fixed sprites? That's the question. And it was on the home page when it was scrolling. That's where we saw the graphics glitches. Dum. Nope. So in this case, it's likely either going to be it's changed. In fact, that might be because it's lacking the SRAM. Then we'd have to prove that by. I've got tons of Pokemon Blues. We could prove it by basically getting another Pokemon Blue, removing the SRAM, and then swapping the actual ROM over as well. Got loads of chat. I've not been scrolling the chat. You'll have to give me a second. There's literally loads of chat. So if I haven't answered you, I'm just going to scroll through now. Yeah, the FRAM mod. I don't know whether I've done it on the wiki. Let me just see. If not, I could also do that. I've got like half an hour still. I just don't want to move because Rusty's in his bed, and if I go get a game, he's going to move. No, I haven't written the guide for the FRAM mod. It's pretty simple. There'll be guides online as well for doing it. Yep, agree there, Joe, with the soldering's a 99% prep work and a good iron. In my case, it's prep work and a good hot air station, but yeah, Soldering's all about technique, not skill, in a sense. Like, if I could show anybody, I could give somebody a hot air gun, give them the iron, and I could get them to solder a BGA on with no experience in 10 minutes. So you don't need to have anything magical, you need to know how to do it. That's the key. If I told you exactly how to solder a certain chip on a certain board, I could get anybody to solder me all these chips on immediately, within no time at all. Preference for soldering iron, you want any really JBC clone, I'd say. You can get a Hacko. I've had Hackos, but I'm preferring the JBC clones. You can obviously buy a real JBC, they're 100 times more expensive, but just type C245 soldering irons, and that's all you need really. For irons, if you want to spend good money, it depends on your budget. The best iron by far is the Waller XMPR or something it's called. Let me try and find it. That's my first expensive iron that I could afford, and it's still the best iron. It's a micro pencil iron, and it's amazing, and it beats all of these irons. I don't even use it now because it was electrocuting me, because the grounds was leaking inside the power supply, so I was soldering and then going with my arm, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And I kept like having muscle spasms, and it took me ages to realise the grounding of the iron must be coming loose inside the power supply. So I brought another one, but I just haven't used them in a while. I think I got this psychological thought that it's going to zap me every time. I got that used to being zapped. It's like put me off looking at it. It's the Waller WMRP. That's the iron, but either way, it's like basically a micro pencil. The WX stations are normally called. Like Waller WX is normally the power brick, and the handles are normally called the either the WX or the WMRP. They both look like the handles I use. That's like the best one. Yeah, I use a Waller 1010, so that'll be pretty good. Yeah, the Wallers are one of the tops really. I haven't got any affiliates, but I can find you the iron. Let me see if I can find the exact iron I've got. Well, this is the new version. It's the WX by the looks of it. Yeah, Farnell, that's where I would have brought it from as well. That definitely looks like the iron. I've got a photo of it, to be honest, on my phone, because I was showing somebody that wanted to buy some stuff. So, funnily enough, I've taken a photo of and dumped in a box. So, there's the irons. There's the one that tried to kill me at the front, and there's the other one there. So, I don't know. There's no make on that, but that's the ones that it looks like for me. But the newer ones are, I'm pretty sure. Let me see if I can find the iron. That's the main thing. Waller micro soldering iron. I'll know as soon as I see an image of it. Oh yeah, the 1010, funnily enough, is very similar, but it's not. Yeah, that iron isn't the same. And I think I read up why it was so good as well at the time. It was something to do with the tips of magnesium. There we go, that's the one. This is what you want. Well, if you want the best, this is, oh wow, and that's cheaper. Mine was like £700. This might be a simpler version, but the iron tip, that looks like the iron tip I use. Those tips there that push in, and it's the WX MP tips definitely. But the stations, obviously you can get multiple stations. So this station, oh that's why, that's just the iron. So the soldering iron is £290, £340. That doesn't include the thing to power the iron. So that makes sense. And then you want something that can basically then power a WX MP tip. So whichever irons you want, basically. But you can find it out from that. These are multiple different bricks effectively that power those irons. But yeah, that was my favourite by far. Right, so what I wanted to do was, have we got another Pokemon game lying around? I might just have to disturb Rusty, because I've got to move at some point. Oh, he's actually gone asleep. Wonder if I can sneak out. Shall I put him on camera and you guys can watch him while I go and Go and try and fetch a Pokemon game. See if I can move out the way. Slowly move. You can be pug sitters. Alright, you guys are pug sitters. Let's try and sneak out. Oh, twitching. Uh-oh. You! I'm back. 2K. That was just about in time. We nearly had a pug getting up. Ooh, did I get a tip while I was away as well? Oh, he doesn't trust me now. He's he's nuzzling again now. He's all happy because I've come back. Right, so we have a Pokemon Blue that works and a Pokemon Yellow. So let's try the Pokemon Blue that works. See how much he senses though. As soon as I'm missing, he knows straight away when I'm gone. And this one hasn't loaded, so this one's probably needs a clean. Bit of IPA for now. Now let's see if we get this loading. And if it is, we can prove what the problem is here, basically. And if it's a bad ROM, there's not much you can do because the ROMs are literally what they are. Yeah, thank you very much. That's much appreciated. Now you've made me think of going out for a coffee, and I forgot about that this morning because I'm that busy. So this one's working. So what we want to do is, what I always like to do to learn is to break something. So I don't want to fix the other one. I want to break this one in the same way. The only real thing we can do on this to break it is remove that SRAM chip and see if that's what causes it. This is a slightly different version by the looks. So we have no crystal. So the crystal isn't removed, it literally just looks like the SRAM. So this is what keeps the game save. If I remove this now, I'm going to lose the game save. But this is just one of mine. This is not, it's not a customer's and it's not one I've played. So I'm just going to whip the chip off this. And then we're going to boot this with, and it looks like it's had a new battery as well. I'm going to boot this without the SRAM and see if we get the same fault. If we do, we know SRAM being missing can cause that corruption. And if it isn't corrupt, we know it's going to be this chip more than likely, and we'll swap it over to prove. And then we know that Pokemon's just as good as bad. It's a bad ROM chip, so we might as well either keep it for testing with corrupt graphics or just bin it, one or the other. Learn all this stuff, just mess around, have curiosity, and have a desire. It's literally when you teach yourself stuff, it's a bit of figuring out what already exists and what already happens, and you Google to some degree to just learn some basics, but then most of the stuff you learn after that when you take it from the knowledge that people already have to the knowledge people don't have, and you apply it yourself. It's very hard to kind of explain in a way how you learn stuff, you just do. It's just, I think the main reason I learn things is I've got curiosity and desire. Basically, I want to learn these things. If I didn't want to learn them, then it's like a job, but I genuinely like this and want to learn it, so having that drive is what makes you learn. Right, so this has now got the SRAM chip removed, so let's see if this now has corrupt graphics. If it doesn't, we know, and I doubt it will, we know then it's likely going to be the ROM, and we'll just swap the ROM over just to prove it, basically. We've also got the record number of you. There you go. So it's just SRAM. Perfect. So this is, again, we've just learned something new. So now in future, if we saw that issue in future and we had a game in with corrupt graphics, this is something I don't think anybody is aware of or knows. I don't know it. We now know that a corrupt SRAM that's only job is to save the game can corrupt the ROM graphics. Why? Past, don't know. But we now know that's the cause of it. So there's a bit of self-learning right there. Something I didn't know I now know. Something you guys have seen. How have I discovered that? I've seen that an SRAM mod's not working. I've removed it. We've seen the change. I've got a working game. I've broke it the same way. It's now broken in the same way. So that's literally how I've learned it. The bigger question is, did this chip go on this way or the other way? Because there's no, I think that's pin 1 indicator there. So I think it's that way. If I'm wrong, shout up, because it's going down this way. If you want to learn how your Switch doesn't charge, I've done absolutely mountains of information on retro6.wiki. If you go on that website, go to Nintendo Switch, I've done everything about fixing Nintendo Switches. Everything about the power circuit, the charge circuit, powering it from bench, all of it. So if you want to learn some stuff there, jump on retro6.wiki. And obviously, like I say, if you want to learn this stuff, I'm not going to be doing this stuff on the main lives normally. I'd just be doing my day job and repairing. But teaching electronics like this is what the YouTube membership and the Twitch subs are for. So if you want to see, subscriber-only lives where I'm doing this repair work, that's the point of the memberships. You'll also get invited in the next week or so. I'm going to set up a private Discord for subscribers where you get invited. Obviously, if you're sub or member to Twitch or YouTube, you're invited to the private Discord where obviously I'll be in every day, all day, and we can arrange what we're going to do on, sub-owning lives and stuff. And the idea will be is teaching other people how to do this job, or just teaching you anything you want, or watching anything be modded or repaired. It's literally, we can all decide what it is we want to see and do. So if this works now, this is the corrupt one with the missing crystal that we've now put the save chip back on. We're not going to bother with the battery yet, so it still won't save. But this now should have a working, non-corrupt screen as the goal. If we've understood everything we've done correctly, this should now work and not be corrupt. And then I definitely need to clean this desk. Right, so I'll put this back in the right way. Put this back in here. And we'll go back in the console. We've got a rusty nozzle. He's going to town on that bed. He's happy that he knows we've fixed something. Right, so now this was the game that didn't work. You can see it's actually a bit corrupt there. That's probably is just actual poor contact on the pins. Yeah, there we go. So that's loading. And then what we're hoping to see now is that the game isn't corrupt on the graphics, and that's then we've just fixed a game basically. And then all I need is I can either finish the FRAM mod, which is probably what I'll do on this one, do it properly. There you go, so that's now working. So there we go, game fixed. So what I'll do is I'll probably swap this chip back onto the other one because that's already got a battery and it's good. And then I'll correctly FRAM mod this when I get time. I'll probably do it on a stream, maybe tomorrow, show you how to do an FRAM mod and fix it. In fact, so I'll leave that chip on them for now. We'll keep them two Pokemon games open. And I'll do a stream tomorrow at some point showing you how to FRAM mod one and what the issues are. So they can go there for now. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to jump off any second. I'll just clean this desk up and then I need to crack on with work. And I might be back on. I probably will be back on later, like a lot later, once I've got some of this work done. But I've got loads of work and I need to focus basically. Thanks for subbing. Just noticed another sub come in. These games now can all stay in here. I'll put them in that tub. Then if we ever need Pokemon games and Rusty's already in the room, we don't need to go out. That can go there as well. I might as well stay on, I'll be working in a minute. Actually, turn it off a second. And I'll clean that desk up. So next up I'll be on this, but obviously I'm not going to stream it just because I need to do things faster today. I've got so many consoles we need to get through, I need to just crack on. Oh yeah, Rusty will be QCing everyone, and he'll be getting these duck and fenugreek, he loves them. Get a treat for everyone we finish. That's it, ready for the next one. Pokemon's 30 years or why it's still played. Because it's still better than Call of Duty, that's why. I've literally just was doing a bit of Pokemon Emerald, which I never played as a kid yet. Played a bit of that last night. I just keep forgetting with it being a different Pokemon and I've not played it. Like, you forget where you're at and what you're even doing and, you know, where your goals are in it as you go. But I've only just started and as it Petalburg City, I'm literally only like an hour into it at the minute. Solder, no, I don't wear masks, but I have this little fan. I haven't done it just this morning, but I do if I'm soldering more than a few little blobs. Put that fan there. And the main guide is to remove the fumes out of your physical face and then have a purifier which is behind me to clean up them fumes. So you see, if I do that, well, zoom in so you can see. I've got fume extractors, but this works better than fume extractors. So if I do that and say I'm soldering here out the way, you'll see all the fumes. Well, if I turn that off because it's that powerful, do the fumes here, then they just ballow up in the air. Turn this fan on while I'm working, and instead they go clean through there. There is a little filter in here, I believe. No, there isn't, it's just a pure air blower. So that's just going to physically blow the fumes way out the way. They'll then rise up in the air, and then I've got an air purifier behind me that purifies the air. And that kicks in all the time, which is not quite kicking in yet, but you'll probably hear it kick in. It's dropped down to 99%. But yeah, your main concern with the fumes is pretty much long-term exposure and developing asthma from it, I guess, as your main concern. Yeah, I normally use fume extractors, but then when I started streaming, because of the noise I stopped using it, but then within a week or so I started getting a bit of a tight throat, so I'm a lot more on it now, trying to remember constantly to put the fume extractor on, basically. And this one is now getting an X station, so I'll crack on with that in a second. Thanks everyone for joining in, and maybe I'll be back on later, but thanks for YouTube growing as well. We seem to be getting a nicer number of followers on there now. Remember, if you're on TikTok still, I'm likely going to stop streaming on there because it's being a dick and constantly blocking me every single stream, so why bother wasting bandwidth streaming to TikTok if it keeps blocking me? It's a shame because it's one of the biggest platforms, but yeah, jump over to Twitch or YouTube in case it stops streaming on TikTok, basically. PS Vitas we don't fix, we just don't like them, basically. Yeah, thanks, you have a good day too. Yeah, I've got the vents with the pipes and the carbon suckers as well. I tend to find getting the tube close enough to work, you end up with a massive tube in your way. So this little fan is ideal. Maybe what I'll do is have an extractor further back and a fan here blowing it into the extractor. I can still work on a better system, like this is literally just physically moving it out of the way. But this works relatively good. Like, you literally don't smell it, you don't sniff it, you don't feel bad from it. But having that air purifier in the room has really helped. Like, you definitely need one of them.